Here's the BSA Lightning 650 whose engine I've recently rebuilt, and I made a previous video showing its first start, and since then I've strobed the timing and got that spot on, and I have actually run it up and down the lane, but no further than that. It's smoking on the right hand side quite dramatically actually, and I really wouldn't have wanted that to be the case, because everything's in very good condition that's been reused in the engine, and new parts have been used where I think necessary, including a couple of exhaust valve guides and piston rings. The bores are good. It's had new main and big end bearings and so on. I've even had the oil pump apart and looked into that, and everything seemed in very good order, so I put it back together. In fact, if anything, when it's running it seems to be almost as if it's perhaps pumping too much oil somehow. But anyway, I'm going to start it up now and run it, and I think I'll probably go for a ride on it later, because it's certainly not going to seize up, I wouldn't have thought, and just see if a few miles on it might help clear the smoke. But for now I'll just start it and show it running with the timing set up nicely and the carburetors pretty well balanced and so on, and a short walk around it while it's running, and that'll do us, I guess. So this isn't a cold start video. I have had it running just a few minutes ago, but anyway, here we go. Now, although it sounds good enough mechanically and it's running nicely, we've got this issue of the smoke on the right hand side. Now, I have seen them do this before. In one instance the smoke actually cleared after I did a few miles on the bike. In the other instance I'd actually, my fault, managed to get an oil control ring in upside down, and I learned from that mistake, and I make sure and double sure and triple sure that I check the piston rings, and if there's any markings for the top side or whatever, I make sure I've got them right. Now, the piston rings in here didn't have any marks on them at all, and the oil control rings look the same either way up. Now, there's plenty of oil circulation there. And it sounds fine mechanically. And I'm confident that all the parts inside that engine are good, but maybe we've got a bad set of piston rings. The gaps were certainly good, I checked them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this soon and get ready to have a ride. I'll just switch off and switch back on again and kick with no hand on the throttle. Oop, nearly. There we are. Not exactly a first Kickstarter like that in that instance, but it did start like that, so that tells me that the timing and the carburetion's set up pretty well. Also, the fuel that was in this bike, in the tank, I drained and changed for some fuel I had, because the owner had been running some sort of additive in the petrol, which, when I stripped the engine, the piston crowns and the combustion chambers and the valves were heavily coated in a thick tar-like substance rather than carbon, and it got so thick that the crust on top of the pistons was actually making contact with the equally gunged up exhaust valves, and that had caused premature and excessive wear to the valve guides. So it's had new exhaust valve guides. I'm convinced that it was something in the petrol that caused it, and since putting my petrol in, I actually had to adjust the carburetors to get a steady tick over again, because the tick over just disappeared. It was stalling after the change of petrol, so there may be something in it. Anyway, I'm going to get togged up and go for a ride on this thing and see how that goes, and it would be lovely to see the smoke clear, but I wouldn't place any money on it, but let's see what happens. Here's the latest BSA A65, whose engine I've fully rebuilt. I'm a little bit concerned, as seen in an earlier video, that there's quite a bit of smoke, oily smoke coming from the right hand side silencer. But I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and do a few miles and see what happens, because I know that the engine should internally be like new, so perhaps it'll settle down, maybe it won't, but there's only one way to find out. So I'm going to go and do a few miles, see what it's like when we get back. Might get a soaking on the way around as well. The weather's not very nice at the moment, but it needs to be done. Right. Probably won't be looking at the sky. We weren't laying great plumes of smoke behind us. I could see in the mirror. I don't think the camera would have picked that up though. There is a bit of smoke still there. I'm going to have to adjust the tick over as it screws again. The engine's sounding nice enough. There doesn't seem to be any leaks. I reckon I'd best get a few more miles on this. I think that smoke might settle down. It might just be the rings actually need to settle in. What we did there was probably about 6 or 7 miles, plus I've done a couple of trips up and down the lane. I'll perhaps aim to get the first 50 miles or so on this. It might just settle down, fingers crossed. Which would be nice, because otherwise it's a very nice bike, it's running very well. I think a couple more trips are in order and see how things go. Right, here's that BSA A65 that I rebuilt again, and after the last run the smoking seemed to have settled down a little bit. I'm going to go for another ride on it now and hope that it may settle down even more and that it's not just wishful thinking on my part. So let's go and do a few miles on it and see what it's like when we get back. And fingers crossed it might not be so bad. I should try not to have us looking at the sky. Well, the jury's still out there, I think. I'll get a few more miles on it again and see how it goes. It's running well enough, going nicely, and obviously charging because I had the lights on that time as well. But we still got that smoke, unfortunately. And if it doesn't settle down soon, I don't think it will at all really, so I'll get the first 50 miles or so on it anyway, as I said before, and see what it looks like by then.